Hello everyone. Welcome to the another episode of Product Management Interview Experience. And I'm Sugat, and today we have Savi, who has recently joined Atlassian. Welcome, Savi.
Thank you, Sugat. Glad to be here.
Great. Thanks a lot, Savi, for being part of this channel. And folks who are watching in, I'm uploading this video after a very long pause, so I will try to be regular. And this interview experience is of IIM campus, and for the role of product manager. So super excited to have Savi today on the channel and hear end-to-end journey what the was the interview experience for Atlassian. So over to Shavi. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'll just share my screen and give a little intro about myself. Super happy to be a part of this series of interviews.
Great.
About myself, I come from an engineering background. I did my electronics engineering in 2018. Then I worked at Deloitte for 2 years. I had an inclination towards software during my engineering days only. So I joined as a front end developer there. I was working on an e-commerce platform there. So there at Deloitte, I actually got to interact with a lot of different teams like designers and various testing teams, various functional teams. And honestly, it is then that I decided that, yeah, I have an inclination towards product management. And with that goal in mind, that I want to shift my career gear to product management, I joined IIM Lucknow. There I was pursuing my PGP MBA program for 2 years, and I did my summer internship in HUL IT. So again, there my role was more or less related to product management only. And as a part of my final placements, I got placed at Atlassian. So it has always been a dream firm for me. Super glad to be here finally.
Awesome, Savi. I think I have heard a lot of requests from my peers and other aspirants to have the interview experience of Atlassian. It's has a great product culture and very renowned when it comes to product management roles. So Atlassian not only hires from campuses but also off campuses as well. So I think this would be pretty much relevant to anyone who are even applying on off campus. And I hope folks watching in would be super helpful by looking at the entire interview experience. Cool, let's get started. Savi, really excited to hear the entire interview process.
Sure. Talking about the interview rounds, the first round was the case submission round. So, we were provided with a problem statement 2 days prior to the actual interview round. So, for Atlassian in IIM Lucknow, and I think it was the same problem statement across other B schools as well for this year. The problem statement was to suggest an improvement in a SaaS product. Now here I would just like to call it out to everybody that the major important thing here was that half of the people did not even know what a SaaS product was. I think that becomes really important to understand the problem statement here. Regarding a few tips on how I went about this case submission round. Firstly, the problem statement was very clear what they wanted. They had listed down every subtopic that had to be covered. That is one thing that people should not really miss out on any pointers given in the problem statement. And it is always I would also like to share that the product that I had chosen for my problem statement was Netflix. And when they say that you have to suggest one improvement, I would say that just suggest only one improvement. Do not, try to go about suggesting multiple improvements and prioritize. That is not what they're looking for. Be very clear and be very precise on that one feature that you would like to improve. Here I think what really helped me was having a data driven approach. So Atlassian is very, very particular about, taking decisions based on data. So, like for example, when I had chosen Netflix, I had actually done a lot of secondary research and collected some data points on why I felt that the solution that I was providing was important, and like how many percentage of users was it affecting and all of that. So, having a data driven approach is a good plus point, I would say. Then so yeah, here one another unique thing about this problem statement was that we were asked to list out this entire solution in a word format. So what usually I had seen was, for other firms, they usually require a presentation kind of a thing, wherein add all those pictures and all of that. But Atlassian really wants very concise documents. So since it was a Word document, if you go on writing paragraphs, it is really very tiring and it's not very readable. So I would suggest having a tabular format really makes the document very clean. So, like, I would like to give an example of when speaking of tabular format. Essentially, what I had done like was, for example, in the KPI subheading, what you could do is you can list down what metric you want to gauge for your solution, and the reason that why are you suggesting that we measure this metric. So, having those two columns makes it very readable and presentable. And also, I feel it's very important to have flowcharts. So, since again it's a Word document, if you keep on writing paragraphs, it will not be very clear to the reader that what exactly your user journey is. So, here what I had done was I had created flowcharts of how my user journey would look like, and what would be like the every single step that a person would have to go through once I have built this improvement in Netflix. So yeah, I think this was it for the case submission round, and just make your document very clean. And yeah, you have very little time. Like I had only 48 hours or so with me, so it becomes really important to start at the very starting. If you keep on just procrastinating it, I think that would then become very difficult.
Absolutely, Sabi. And I think you mentioned it absolutely correct, right? You should have an eye to details. If the case is asking just an improvement or whatever the description is being asked, I think the case submission should focus majorly on those aspects, and that get your chances of conversions. So kudos again. And yeah, so what next after case submission? You got the results, and all the upcoming rounds were scheduled immediately.
Yeah, so after the case submission round, we got the results in 2 days. And on the day of the interview, there were three interviews lined up. So, firstly, I'll talk about the first round of interview. So, this round was more or less based on the case submission only that we had provided earlier. It lasted for around 45 to 50 minutes for me. Now here, I would just like to say that everybody should be very thorough with their solution. I mean, here you should have a lot of clarity that why you have actually wanting to solve this problem, and who are the users that are being affected by it. Why are you really measuring that particular KPI? So be very thorough with your entire solution. You should know every word that has been written on your document. Then the second, so yeah, this was another question that was being asked to me, was that they said that, okay, now you have suggested a feature or an improvement in Netflix. So I was being asked that, do you think there is an alternate way to solve this particular problem? So I think it's good to say that, yeah, there are different ways, because then that shows that you have actually thought through the entire problem very well, and you know that, okay, there are various ways, but then it's always good to justify that why your solution will be better. So I think in my case, that is a little brownie point that I got, that the interview thought that, okay, I know about various other potential solutions, but I know that why my solution is better. So yeah, this, and then they ask you to walk through your entire document. So that covers like majority of the interview. Then another question that I was asked in this round was that I had to design a video conferencing app. So what other factors will I have to consider in this video conferencing app? Now here I would say that it's important to understand the problem statement. So always begin with clarifying questions. But when I ask with clarifying questions, like interviewees are suggested not to ask generic questions and be very specific to the problem statement. So here the approach that I kind of went ahead with was I first asked clarifying questions that, say for example, who are we designing this app for? Do we have any target customer in mind? And what is the duration that we want to probably release this app in? So that might help me in prioritizing the features at a later stage of time. Then the customer segments. So yeah, it's important to know the customer segments. What are their pain points? Then we need to provide solutions slash features for those pain points that they are probably facing. We need to prioritize the features because obviously there will be constraints in terms of, say, maybe the effort or maybe time. And lastly, it's very important to list down the metrics. I've seen a lot of people kind of miss out on this metrics part, but it's really important to list down the metrics. And I would say that here, it's always a great idea to kind of buy some time from the interviewer. They honestly do not have any problem in you taking some time to list down the points. But then when you're speaking, just try to speak sense. They do not want to get bored down by any redundant points. And so, yeah, besides this, I was asked as a follow up for this video conferencing app question. I was also being asked that list down different use cases where it can be used, and they try to deep dive into it. So, here I would say that try giving an out of the box answer that gives you brownie points. So, say for example, in my case, I told them that because of this COVID situation and all of that, so video conferencing app could be used for edtech. That's now more or less a standard answer. It could be used in the health industry. Again, it's not a very standard answer, but okay, better than edtech. And lastly, I told that it could also be used in the music industry. So, like maybe, artists can perform their concerts via this video conferencing app. So I think that is the point that got the interviewer, very curious about this industry. And so that music industry was the point that he took up, and he asked me to deep dive into it. So yeah, it's always a good choice to get a out of the box answer. So yeah, I think this was all about the interview round one.
Awesome, and pretty interesting insights, which we I think all the users will also agree to. These days, I think the competition is so tough that I think the obvious answers won't stand out. You have to think out of the box and come up with different use cases that will not only be beneficial but also solves a real problem.
Right.
Great.
So yeah, I'll move on to the next interview round. So again, the interview round two happened on the same day. And that round was a proper product management round. It lasted for about 1 hour. So like here they were trying to understand what is my understanding of a product and how well I know concepts related to product management. So here I would like to give a brief background about this interview. So what happened was that during my time in IIM Lucknow, I was actually managing an in-house application. So this entire interview was for me. It was based on that app that I was managing there. So as usual, they'll ask you about your introduction first. They'll ask you to introduce yourself, and so I had intentionally tried to put this thing in my intro that I'm working on that app, so that that interviewer gets some cue or some talking points to talk about that app. So, since I was working on that app, he asked me about the vision of the product. So, here I would like to just mention one thing, that it's always better to not beat around the bush. just be very specific that the vision could be very short term as well as long term. That's fine. You can just let the interview know that this is the short term vision that I'm looking at. So then he asked me about improvisation of features in the product. So basically, what other external features could you add in future? Again, I divided it into short term, long term, and then he asked me about the scope of scaling. Whether that app that I was managing was essentially only for internal purposes of IIM Lucknow. So he asked me that whether you could scale it to Lucknow, whether you could scale it to India or to the globe. So just be very sure that you also need to be very considerate of the fact that there will be limitations, and uh, you cannot just scale everything to the at a global scale. So that was there. So the conclusion of my answer of this scaling of the product was that I told that it could be scaled at a city level in Lucknow at least. So then he moved on and asked me to guesstimate the number of users who can adopt that app. So now here again, it's very, very important to practice guesstimate. I have heard like a lot of people only say that guesstimates are important in consult interviews, but I personally feel that it's really important in product interviews as well. Now here, he was not really looking at my numbers, but yeah, the approach definitely mattered. So you need to consider every minute level that maybe so many people have internet available at their homes. Only so many people. So if you're building only an Android app, so the app that I was building was only an Android app. So you need to consider the percentage of users of Android, and you need to remove iOS users. So digging down into details is, I think, what really helped me here. Again, it's okay to like take 5 to 10 minutes from the interviewer to properly list down your approach. I would suggest that first list down your entire approach and then only speak to the interviewer. At least that helped for me. Then there were a few generic questions. So again, because my summer internship was in the product management domain, they asked me about that project that I was working on and the challenges related to it. So now here again, the challenges that were related to the project, and they also asked me about the learnings from my summer internship. So I would again suggest you that it's very good to prepare it in advance because they want to see that whether you've actually learned something related to the domain or anything in your 2 months of internship. So the pointers that I kind of used here, or the learnings that were there from my summer internship, I would say that initially when I was working on various problem statements in my college, we do not have that a practical approach or a wide approach. I mean, we cannot really see the bigger picture. But when I was interning with HUL, I kind of understood the bigger picture that in reality, honestly, there are very various constraints as well when you actually launch a product or a feature into the market. You'll have to consider whether the technical compatibility is there with the previous systems, and whether people are ready to adopt it, whether you can actually scale the feature in advance. Like no company wants to bring out a feature which can be used only for a year or so, and then it becomes obsolete, or whether they can't add more features to the existing feature. So scaling also becomes a very important factor in here. So those are the pointers that I kind of understood from my summer internship. And then they asked me about the favorite app. So yeah, again, here, so I had picked up Farm Easy. It's always a good idea to pick up an app that you are actually using very well, because it is possible that they might ask you few questions here and there from the app as well. So it's always good to know the app in and out. Now here again, I use the circles approach to list down the features, prioritize it, and again, so this is also one thing I would recommend users to list down previously only. Be prepared with it before your interview. This is a very standard question in all the product interviews. So because the app that I selected was from the healthcare industry, so just as a follow up, the interviewer asked me that what would be the industry trends that you would follow in the healthcare industry if you had to include more features or He just wanted to see that whether I am looking at the bigger picture. So, and all through this while, it is possible that you might not really be confident about some answer, or you might not know an answer. I would say it's okay to just tell the interviewer that this is all you could think of, or you're not aware of it. They are very welcoming, and they are okay with you not knowing things, but it's better not to fake things and just be trapped in your own answers later on. So this was the interview round two for me.
Okay, great. I think thanks again for sharing this awesome insights. One thing is pretty clear, right? In PM interviews, it's not always about the right or wrong answer, but what your approach and thought process is. And as an interviewer, he or she would be more interested in listening how you are thinking, and that what actually adds. As you mentioned, right? There are times when you really don't have an answer. It's okay to accept that. Hey, you can't think any other things, and those candid conversations would get to know how you will be actually working as a PM.
Right. So, yeah, moving on to my next interview round. This was the last interview round, the values based round. Now, Atlassian is a firm which really, really believes in its values a lot. Uh, it's not, I mean, there are a lot of firms which say that they believe a lot in their values, but those are just written on walls and all of that. But at Atlassian, it's definitely not the case. So in everything that they are doing, they track it back to their values. So I would say that this is the most important round for Atlassian. So it's typically an HR type round, and it's almost an hour long round. It's always a good idea to recollect incidents from your life for this round. So now, yeah, so the values based round, so Atlassian has five values. All of these values are like super important. You can read more about it on the Atlassian's page as well. So like a few questions that, so now they would not directly ask that have you built with heart and balance. They would not ask that. They would try to twist the question and resonate it or draw parallels from that particular value. So, like I was asked that, so for example, for be the change you seek, which is the last value, they asked me that, how do you inspire people? So, now here again, a thing that I would like to point out is that the interviewer knew that I have never been at such a big position in my life that I can inspire, like, say, hundreds or thousands of people. And he knew that, and he told me that it's okay. You don't need to inspire like hundreds or thousands of people, but you can just tell that if you have inspired a small team, say of 4 or 5 people, and that's also fine. So the interviewers are very, very understanding. So they asked me about my failures, how I used to resolve a conflict between teams, whether I've delivered a wrong product to the customer. Here, it's important to be true to the interviewer. It's okay if you have delivered a wrong product to the customer, as long as you understand that and you kind of acknowledge it that it was wrong and it should not have been done. So at Atlassian, customers are like the most important aspect of the business. So you do not really mess around with the customer anytime. So it's good to read about these values and actually try to understand whether you fit into these values, because that is how the company will work even later on if you join. So it's more or less just to see whether you are a good fit in the firm and whether the firm is a good fit for you as well. So it goes both ways. So yeah, this was it about the values based round, and this was the last round of the entire process.
Great, and absolutely right. This value-based rounds are getting pretty popular these days and being asked across all the companies around FANG as well. And there might be situations that, let's say you are appearing for this interview for the first time and you don't have any product experience. Now, how can you answer? Let's say, tell me a time when you had a conflict with your manager or you didn't agree. It's not necessary that you take the product related experience, but maybe you worked as a software engineer for last 2 years. You can even share those experience. They are looking for is you, how as a person, how you will react to different situations. So don't have to worry how you're going to tackle these situations if you don't have a product experience, but more on from your past experience and the kind of work which you have done.
Right. Yeah,
uh
I correctly said Sugat.
Awesome. I think, yeah, I think you did pretty well. Not only the way the questions were asked, but the way you approached this, I think that was a clear victory sign. And I hope the results would have been announced immediately since it was a campus placement and all.
Yeah, so the results were announced in I think an hour or so. So we got to know it on the same day itself.
Great. Awesome. So thanks a lot, Savi. I think this is pretty helpful for the folks who wanted to get into Atlassian and aren't aware about, what kind of interview happens, how they are evaluating. I think this video gonna help most of them. Before I think we wind up this video, can you share some tips for the aspirants how they can break into product management, or what are few tips, do's and don'ts, they should be very clear about when applying for Atlassian or any other product interviews?
Sure. So I think I would like to share things that probably worked for me. So firstly, CV prep. This is really, really important. Now, a lot of people say that it's important to get case comms, live projects, and all of that. I would say that yeah, it's important because they probably give you good insights into product management domain itself. Now, it's okay if you're not getting either of these, but it's a good practice if you try to, still work on things like case comms, live projects. Now, if I had to say my personal story, honestly, I was trying for a lot of case comms, but I did not really win anywhere, or I was not getting that breakthrough into case comms. So I think live project is what helped me a lot. So even when earlier I was recalling about that video conferencing app question that was asked to me in the round one. So that idea of music industry, it's what I was actually working on a live project beforehand. So that live project came very helpful for me during the interview as well. So it's a good idea to try getting into these. Then regarding yeah, so you should also include those key PM terms in your CV, like user journey, KPIs, product roadmap. But honestly, one should not try to force fit it because the interviewers understand that, yeah, these are just terms that have been included, and your CV won't get shortlisted if you just try to force fit it. And yeah, be very thorough with every point in your CV. So one thing that I had done was that for every line in my CV, I had created a document where I had written down the story behind it, or like say if I'm saying that I probably increased the user count by 50%. So I'd also written that how did I get that 50%? What were the actual numbers before, after? So I think this document will really help you during the day of your interview. In case you just want to brush up through your points or the numbers in your CV as well. Then coming to the actual interview prep. So, a very big important point is start early. Because getting an early start is definitely a head start. You need a lot of prep to be done. So, like when I started off early, I did not necessarily, picked up apps and did analysis and all of that. So for everyone watching here, I myself was watching Sugat's interviews and trying to understand that what kind of questions were being asked to other people in different firms. So that kind of really gives you an idea on how exactly you want to prepare and what are the pointers that you want to prepare on. So and another thing is that pick up apps daily. So probably I think 3 or 4 months prior to my actual placement season, what I used to do is that I used to so we had a group of 3 friends, and we used to pick up apps daily from various industries. Say, you create a list, say maybe could be from healthcare, could be from the food industry, or it could be from all the industries. Highlight the pain points, what are the new features to be added, what are good points about that app. So ultimately, you'll realize that you can generalize a few of the pointers, and that becomes super helpful when you are asked for some any random app during the interview. and also mock interviews. So yeah, this is very very important. I think practicing mock interviews really gives you the confidence to speak up in the interview. And as they say that communication is really a very big important aspect for a product manager. So and practice will only make it perfect. So giving a mock interviews will definitely help you, and it's always a good idea to give mock interviews. You can do that with your juniors, you can do with your peers, with your friends, anybody, that's okay. But yeah, you should be doing that. And do not neglect HR questions. So, like, yeah, as Sugat also mentioned, value based interviews are becoming really important these days. So, do not neglect the HR questions at all. And lastly, there's just one tip I would like to share with everybody. A strong network of friends really goes a long way. I mean, I had a really great group of people with me who used to support me a lot. And I would say that it's probably because of their efforts only that, they've helped me so much all throughout my journey. So make sure that in the process, you also build this network of friends. It will be super helpful for you in the long run. Thank you. I think that was all from my side.
Awesome, Savi. I think these are really great insights, and shout out to your friends and kudos to them for helping you out in this journey. And when you were talking about this, the two most important things which I would like to take it away, or which even I do right now, is the fourth of the CV prep, like writing those stories in documents that are really helpful. Even I have that document with me with all the bullet points of the CV and the stories around that. And the second part is the buddies which you mentioned, right? Have that close connect. Even we have a group of three friends where we talk about products, we talk about work, and then all the things. Those are super helpful and help you keep aligned to those things. Great.
Yeah, that really helps.
Awesome. And I really enjoyed this entire conversation, Savi. And thank you so much for being part of this channel. Uh, as far as I've heard, Atlassian is hiring a lot of PMs in upcoming 1 or 2 years. So folks, do check out their career website. And if you come across any roles, do reach out to Savi for any help, referral, and she would be more than happy to help you out.
Definitely. Happy to help.
Cool. Thank you so much for watching in. Stay tuned for upcoming videos, but please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this channel. And yeah, see you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.